May not know what I'm talking about, but I'm going to say it anyway. This is a continued extra for Get It Together, Girl. Your desperation is showing, and a few other chapters, but this probably relates more to this chapter. And I was going over the concept of love and how a lot of times, especially for women, we like to think or believe that love is all it takes to make a relationship survive. And I like to look at love as a motivator and not necessarily it it's the glue in the sense of if you're if you have love in a relationship, you can you'll the ability to fight is there. That's what to me how I see it as a motivator. um, the ability to overlook or to get past, again, a motivator, versus the whole concept of what make a relationship um, survive. Because if you're not a disciplined person, or you're immature, or you don't have a sense of duty, love can only take you so far without those other ingredients. As a matter of fact, you could probably be in a relationship a lot longer and survive in a relationship a lot longer with maturity and duty than even love, because your sense of duty is like there's an integrity of responsibility that you have that allow that your sense of feeling that if you don't want to look bad, or you don't want to come off as being irresponsible. So that could be your motivation for hanging in there. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to love this person and you're going to do certain things which love would allow you to do and allow you to feel, but you at least hang in there if you're talking about security. However, love, on the other hand, is the thing that blossoms or creates an environment that makes staying in that relationship even that much more easier, without you fighting, or worrying about what people think, or it's based on condition. That's what love does. So that's why I look at love as being a motivator and not a true entity that actually is all you need for a relationship to survive. Now, the point in me saying all of this is a lot of times, especially like I said, as women, when somebody falls in love, and like if a person says that they love you, you say, well, how come we can't be together? Or all, different things like that. And sometimes there's a lot of other things going on that makes it difficult for you to deliver. And this is why it relates to this particular chapter. Get it together, grow your desperation is showing, because again, as women, our desire to be in a relationship is such that we do overlook those other ingredients that are needed to maintain a relationship. And a person can love you, and they can want to do right by you, but if they don't have the other ingredients that allows them to be able to do the right thing by you, it doesn't matter how much they love you. They'll take your feelings into consideration because they love you, and they'll try to attempt to go through the motions of being in a relationship with you. But if those other things are not there, it's not going to matter. And love and dedication doesn't always go hand in hand. There's a lot of guys who have cheated on their wives and things like that, and they do love them. But unfortunately, they had other issues going on. They weren't mature enough, or whatever the circumstance was. They didn't have a clear vision of who they were. There was a lack of understanding their own security. They weren't firm in what they believe in. All those things could have played a part in their indiscretions because of their lack of certainty. So it didn't matter how much they loved you, because they didn't feel good about where they were in their own life. When they didn't want to hurt you, which was the love part, and why they couldn't communicate that information to you, because they didn't want to hurt you and they didn't want to disappoint you, and that's where the love part came in. But then the other side of them was also dealing with issues that they needed somebody to cope, to help them cope. And that's where sometimes these side issues come in. They can go to that other person. That person makes them feel secure about themselves. That person, and they could be completely honest about it. And they don't feel a sense of the word about disappointing this person because the person knows where they stand. And so, because of that, it's easier for them to go to that other person than it is to you because they love you and they don't want to hurt you. And so, of course, like I said, what they do is they choose to go to outside issues. So that person, like I said, so love that's definitely an example of where love it wasn't enough. And and that's what I'm trying to embrace, get women to embrace that idea of that, so they understand the importance of a man being in a real place, of him being mature enough, for him understanding responsibility, with him understanding integrity, with him understanding these things that actually help create the relationship that we truly desire. And without us understanding that and operating just on emotion, it's where sometimes we end up becoming the loser in all of this. Um, and like I said before, it's just the fact. Like I said before, I just look at love as a motivator. I just look at it as it's the thing that helps keep the relationship going. And this is the thing that's really important too, is if the conditions are constantly adverse, where a person is feeling betrayed in some way, maybe you're not delivering on the goods, that love diminishes. That love can diminish, and when it does, um, you can find yourself without again. So we fall in love with people based on sometimes it's circumstances, sometimes it is just I met you and I just want to be with you. But if there's a lot of adversity going on as far as people not responding correctly and things like that, it can kind of affect your emotions, where it can be not necessarily, I won't say completely removed, where it's just that the disappointment overwhelms the emotion. I've seen that happen as well, where the person fell in love with a person they thought was understanding, and then that person no longer is understanding anymore, and so that person now feels a sense of betrayal from that. And then when things go, crap hits the fan, so to speak, that other person begins to understand their actions and realize that maybe, just maybe, I didn't behave correctly, and this might have helped cause this person to, where things to go awry. And then, so they get their emotions back together again, and they start becoming that person that person fell in love with. And so now the person realizes, like, I could be with you again. So it wasn't necessarily that they fell out of love with you. It was more or less the disappointment in what was going on during the time of adversity. The disappointment overwhelmed their feelings. And it wasn't that they necessarily fell out of love with you. It's just that they just felt a sense of disappointment, a sense of possible betrayal in some way, because this is not the person that they fell in love with. So again, that's an example of you not necessarily falling out of love, but again, like I said before, where disappointment overwhelms takes over, and you kind of lose sight of what you fell in love with because you're not getting that anymore. You know, so these are things that I felt like were important, to like an extra point. And I won't even say it's an extra point. It was probably to heighten the point that was already existing. To say, like I said, to say to women and even men too, because men need to understand this as well. Because sometimes men feel that way as well. That love will conquer all, and it doesn't always conquer all, because of the other ingredients. Like I said, there's a lot of people who are still in love with certain people, but because the relationship just wasn't doable, whether it was abuse, whether it was constant disappointment and heartbreak, they still love that person, but they couldn't stay with that person because it was just too many variables that just overtook their feelings. Excuse me. And when it comes down to, again, going back to what I said about integrity, being dutiful, things of that nature, those things actually those things can even override love. There are some people they're with people that they're women who know a man will be a good father to their children or their future children, and he's somebody who understands what being a husband is and things like that. They'll choose that person for over somebody who loved them because they want a secure relationship. They want to make sure that, hey, I'm with somebody. I'm in a circumstance where I can count on it. And I don't need to be with somebody that, even though he makes my heart pitter patter, so what? He ain't got it together. He's selfish. Whatever the circumstance is, they choose the person who's more stable. And they, as long as that condition is met, if that person understands that condition and they willing to do that, they probably have a shoe in of having a happy ever after in some capacity, because that person will say, "Hey, I appreciate this person for being the person they are, so I'm going to be good to them. I'm not going to show lack of gratitude because they don't always make my heart pitter patter and stuff." So that's why I said, in a lot of ways, once we understand that across the board, whether it's male or female, then you begin to understand why you can't just base everything on love, and that it does require other things. And understanding too, going back to what I said about the importance of this chapter, is saying that it's why it's important for us as women to want our men to be in a place where we know they're able to give us what we need all the way around. So if you fall in love with someone and he is working on himself, or he needs to work on himself, be able to push your feelings aside and say, "Hey, I care dearly for you, but you need to get it together. And I know you need to get it together. I know that I'm not going to be happy with things just as they are. Yes, you make my heart pitter patter. Yes, I think about you. Yes, all these wonderful things. But but you're not where you need to be. So I'm going to give you your opportunity to do that. And if they care, if that love is really sustainable, they will take that energy and do that. They will do just that. And they'll have a purpose behind what they're doing, because they know that technically they got you in a certain way. That's another reason why friendship is so important in my eyes. That's why, because I feel like you can do that with somebody. Like, you might meet that person and you might fall in love with them, but you see that they're working on their plan. So it's not really a good idea to jump in with both feet right now. Is to let them do what they need to do in peace, without any conditions on it, without worrying about whether or not they're gonna flip flop on you, or whatever the circumstance, if they're gonna fall a couple of times. You just don't worry about it. It's like, you know what, I'm not putting myself in a position where I gotta deal with them messing with my head and my heart so much. I know there gonna be times when I probably will like things to be more secure, but because I know it wasn't right in the first place, I couldn't demand that of them. So I can't get upset when I do get bothered by things. I just have to let that go, because right now neither one of us are in the right place, especially them. So I choose not to put myself in an emotional, vulnerable place where I could be hurt all the time. You don't I won't ask no questions, and you don't put it in my face. That could be the agreement. And so, I'm not worried about whether or not the timing of it is in God's time. I'm gonna go ahead and live my life and do the things that make me happy, and whatever happens, happens. But you know how I feel, and I know how you feel, so we'll go from there. So that's part of the reason why I feel like friendship is important, because you can do things like that, and you're being honest with this person and letting them know that you care about them. So it's not like they don't know, but they also understand that the reason why things aren't moving further it's because there's some things that's going on right now that need to be fixed or need to be a foot more developed. And you don't want to compromise yourself, and you don't want to put them in a position where they might be forced to do things unscrupulous until they get where they need to go. So again, this is Tia Radney, and I'm signing off. But like I said, I thought this was another important discussion to get into love being a motivator and not the entity that completely makes a relationship. Like I said, it definitely helps, and it definitely plays an important part of your well-being, the relationship's well-being. You're going to have a much better relationship versus a relationship that's just based on duty. But you know, a lot of people have married on duty, whether it's arranged marriages or whatever, and because both of them had the maturity to understand what it was, they were able to work it out. Whereas some people, again, they fell in love and they were in love and they were in love even when they left the relationship, but they didn't make it. So, talk to you later. Bye bye. Okay, hello, this is Tara Ratney, and I'm continuing another commentary that's associated with trust issue for women. This is going to the women's section. Most of my extra commentary is kind of related more to men. So this is a first time that I'm doing one, or not a first time, but kind of like a that I dedicated with primarily to the woman. Now, I had a chapter that said if you can't trust him, then after all, he's your husband. And I also had another chapter that discussed, being able to stand on your own 2 feet, as well as good judgment with get it together, girl. Your desperation is showing. Now, in these chapters, what all these chapters have in common have a lot to do with good judgment and our ability to understand the importance that the man that we choose to spend the rest of our lives with, or in some case, or in a lot of cases nowadays, people who you choose to have children with. You're, but I'm really more or less talking to women who really are looking for husbands, or who have husbands. I've heard conversation with a lot of women where they say that in most cases they believe that men cheat, or that they don't not sure if they can trust the man that they're dealing with. And part of the problem that I have with that kind of conversation is, first of all, why would you invest in someone that you want to devote your life to, or supposed to devote your life to? Why would you invest in someone that you don't trust? I mean, don't get me wrong. I know that nobody's perfect and everybody makes mistakes, but that's just it. Nobody's perfect and everybody makes mistakes. So, of course, when a person goes into a marriage, they should go in with the mindset and the ability to manage their extra emotions that they have outside of that marriage, meaning that you will be drawn to people that attracted to different people, but you understand that you've gotten married, that you made a commitment to someone else, so therefore those options are no longer available to you. And now it becomes about you, that other person, and hopefully, if you're spiritually oriented, God, what I'm saying, is to help you manage through your issues and problems. Now, of course, we know that there are people who don't properly do that, and that's where the outside issues come in, which I consider that to be a bad problem solving, or excuse me, bad man, that problem solving skills that they haven't learned how to maneuver properly when they run into issues in their relationships. And so what they do, they tend to fall back on the old ways of doing things, which is to reach out to other people. unless there's somebody who never had planned or intended on being faithful in the first place. Now, getting to the point of this whole discussion for me is that if you involve yourself with someone that you don't trust, first and foremost, you have to realize that you're now causing drama for yourself by spending your time with this person in this way. Because you're going to be spending all your time investigating their life and their day-to-day life, things that they do, just to find out what's going on, which doesn't make a lot of sense. Why would you even put yourself in a position of having to do that? That's number one. Then you get into the judgment of how they relate when children, how do they relate to their own children when children become involved? Because now, since you don't trust them, obviously you're probably not going to trust their judgment, which creates an entity where your children will not get the full parenting that they should get from both sides, because you don't believe this person is worthy or can fulfill the obligations that it would take to be a parent. So again, you're setting your children up. I mean, you might as well be a single parent in this case. And again, purposely doing something like that to me is just, I almost feel like it's criminal to a certain degree, because you're depriving that child a piece of who they are, just to fulfill your needs. I mean, like I suggested to my daughter, I said, hey, if you got to a place where you couldn't, that marriage was not available to you, why don't you either adopt or get artificial insemination? Now, a lot of people would say with artificial insemination, what's the difference between being just finding somebody to be with? Well, because that circumstance was set up where the donor is unknown initially, and you can explain to the child that's how the situation was set up, they would already have an ideal that it was never intended for the father to be part of the picture, or that it was not available to them for the father to be part of the picture, and that their desire to have a child was there, and hopefully that's where you could give the kind of love to that child to help them, through their missing, or find mentors to fill that void. When you deliberately or you are involved in a relationship, the ideal is that this relationship was going to generate the kind of situation where two parents were going to be available. And when a child knows that and they're aware of that, that's when that desire is even more fueled to have that parent in part of their lives, because they're thinking, well, you were supposed to be part of my life. I mean, you and my mom got together and you seemingly wanted to be with her, so why don't you want to be part of my life? And so it creates a greater hunger. Children who don't have the other parent will always have a hunger for their parents, whether they're deceased or whatever the situation is. But when it's something that can't be helped, like, you handle it a little bit differently than when it's something that appears that it could have been helped. And that's where it starts with us as women when it comes to our judgment. Because in a lot of cases, it's our bad judgment in who we chose to get involved with, and not paying attention to things that we needed to pay attention to, that really got us into this mess. That was avoidable situations. Um, and because of the fact that there was a known person, so that's what makes the difference between artificial insemination and a relationship, or a one night stands, or whatever you want to call it, because a known person was involved. It's unknown who the person is involved in that other circumstance, and especially because of the fact that that's what the organization is set up for. The sperm donor organizations are set up for people who want to have children that excuse me, are set up for are set up for people are set up for situations like that, just like adoptions. When a child realizes that their natural birth parents either didn't want them or couldn't handle the responsibilities of being a parent, they were they are able to adjust differently, and they take on, they receive the love that is given to them in a different way than a child that could have known that their parents could have been part of the picture. The other parent could have been part of the picture, and so that makes a difference. So that was a suggestion I gave to my daughter if she had ever decided that she wanted to have children, and there was nobody available for her, versus her purposely having a child and creating that insecurity, that insecure issue for that child. I felt like that would be very unfair. So, but the thing that I really wanted to get at was the trust issue, and how you're possibly creating an entity of division for the other parent, where they become no not non a non-factor, and that's not fair to no that's not fair, not only fair to that man, but it's not fair to the child. And another issue that goes into that is the financial responsibility of that situation, because if you create that entity, you could understand how they could become resentful when they're not part of the picture, unless they are okay with not being part of the picture, and they say, well, I'll just pay, I'll fulfill my financial obligations. That father is going to be very resentful, and that's where another whole set of problems come in. But my biggest concern in this conversation really is the trust issue, and the fact that we should not be looking to get involved with people who we don't believe can fulfill the obligations of the relationship. If you don't believe that, then that means that you are with the wrong person, or like I said, the timing is wrong. They haven't grown to a place where they can maintain a relationship in a proper way. And then again, why would you want to get married to a person like that at this point? Why would you want to get involved like that? And I feel like this is part of my problem that I have with us as women, is that we're more concerned about fulfilling our maternal needs or the desire to be involved with someone than we are about whether this relationship is truly valid. And I feel like this is what we're paying for now. And all the whining and complaining that we have when it comes to men, to me, is not justified, because it started with us. If we were less concerned about, um, if we just let the chips fall where they may, as far as whether or not the relationship will take place, or if it does or doesn't take place, and more concerned about just if we have personal goals or things of that nature, we go ahead and do that. Or like I said before, there are plenty of children out there that are in foster care and things like that that need love. Even if we took on that stand, or mentorship, or whichever, however it goes, there's just plenty of opportunities that we could utilize, to fulfill that maternal need. Um, until the right situation comes along, if we were less concerned about fulfilling that maternal need, or like I said, just to have somebody, we would probably make a lot better judgment, because then we wouldn't be so like we have to have a man, and so we wouldn't gloss over the flaws that exist, and we wouldn't have to operate from the standpoint of, I'm preparing for a single parenting issue. Because again, if you don't trust that man, if you don't believe that he could be a father to his children, believe he could be a husband to you and a father to his children, or even if you believe he could be a father to his children, but you have issues because of how things went down between you and him, then you're not serving anyone well, including yourself, because your needs might be getting met in a sense of, because you physically have achieved the goal of having someone in your life, but you don't get to see what real love is. You don't get to experience that. You experience a situation that's half-assed, really. And the sad part about that is you pass that behavior on to your children, particularly your daughters, and they end up following suit and doing the same thing. And this is what we have right now: that constant passing down of bad behavior, that even when it's not justified, our daughters are receiving this information, and they haven't even gotten to the game yet. They haven't even experienced anything to justify them feeling that they should not trust men. We've planted that seed in their head, and to me, I just look at all of that as being criminal. So that's the common. And when me saying that, because what I mean by that is, or what I feel goes wrong here is that when we as women don't want, we try to save face by not um, by not take looking at the part we played in the failure of that relationship. What we do is we look for people to co-sign, you know, or we look for a support system that makes us feel better as to why things, that it wasn't our fault, and everything was that other person's fault, and I don't have to change my behavior. Everybody else has to change theirs. That's what it turns into. And so that's why it's easier to plant a seed of it's somebody else's fault and that it's their problem than it is for us to look at, where we could have played, took a wrong turn. And whether it's judgment or behavior, whatever the situation is. My feeling behind this, and this is something I tried to do myself, is to explain that just because I made a bad turn doesn't mean that it has to work that way for you. And I try to look at what I didn't do right, and hope that they would learn from my mistakes. And I try very hard to find out what's important for me, and things of that nature, so I can pass that information on to my daughter, so she won't follow in the same traps. Not to say that I'm successful in my always in the endeavor, because a person is who they are, and sometimes you have to learn from your mistakes. But at least I go in with the mindset that, or I try to go on with the mindset to give her as much information as I can possibly give her, in the same manner in which I'm doing right now for anybody who's listening to this. The whole purpose of my writing the book was to help, give people points of view, that a different point of view, where they can kind of think about whether or not this relates to them or not, and how it could fit into their life. So again, but the passing of bad information is, to me, is the biggest issue that I feel that has really taken us down. And like I said before, a lot of people haven't even experienced these issues yet, and we're influencing them in this way. So again, this is Terry Ratney, and I'm closing out on this particular chapter. Again, excuse me for the coughing. I was going through something was caught in my throat. But thanks again. Talk. Bye bye. Okay. Again, as I said on the last section, this will be possibly the last conversation on this matter. I do have one direct conversation with women that will follow much later on. This next chapters will, or conversations will be concerning black men, or black issues. And so um, kind of get away, and I won't say necessarily get away from relationships, but kind of zoom more in on what's going on between us as black people. So for all you people are saying, "Oh my gosh, is she talking about this again?" Like I said before, the book does have a lot to do with relationships, but it also talks about a lot of other things as well. And hopefully, I'll be able to get as much variety of conversation in as I possibly can. But thank you for listening, and this is Tara Radney signing out. Bye.